Okay, should be live. Let me know uh, in the chat how everything looks, sounds, smells. If you can smell it, you probably cannot. If you can, then you got to be here somewhere hiding. Please don't be that person. Um, it's clearly been a week here. We've had the craziest weather I've ever seen in my life. I'm in Texas. Near the floods. I'm fine. The house I'm in is fine. My family's fine. Obviously, it's pretty bad for some people, but it's just been a lot of things going on this week. So it's going to be a shorter stream because we got started a bit later than I was expecting. But it's going to be an AMA. I said last time we did this that I want to do this every now and then, and it gives me some time to address comments that people have made under videos. So if you're not watching this live and you have a question, put it below in the comments below this video, and I will get to it in the next AMA. If you are watching this live, definitely post your questions in the chat, whatever they are. I won't answer them if I don't want to, but I would imagine like I will answer it. And, it can be on anything you want. I would imagine it's probably philosophy related, but I will definitely get to it in the chat this stream because that's what I'm going to be focusing on. It's going to be a pretty short one, but I appreciate anybody who's here. I appreciate it if you hit the like button and post a comment, hit the bell notification if you want to be updated anytime that we do go live, which is every week. I had a whole long stream planned tonight that was going to be on the origins of sentient singularity theory and really like my personal origin more. It was going to be about that and kind of AI a bit more. But I'm starting a bit later than I expected and I haven't even eaten. I'm pretty hungry. So we're going to push that to next week and we're going to do an AMA this week. But how's everything sound? Like I said, let me know. But it looks like the audio is good. I will talk about some things involving AI that I've seen recently, and we'll talk more about this, but just until we get some questions here. I saw something that was kind of really, honestly, a bit concerning. And I'm not, whatever will be, will be. We're not doomed. Sentient singularity theory is not a theory that implies any doom. It does imply that we're going to go through a hard time as, the cosmological verse just unifies as the assembly unifies and as evolution progresses and God's plan, comes to fruition. This is written about in every scripture, and it also seems to be implied in the logic of the metaphysics of sentient singularity theory. And so I don't want anybody to ever think that I don't know, despair is terrible. It's because it's wrong, and that's why it's terrible. And there's definitely we're gonna go through some stuff with every technology you do, but as a technological sentience is birthed, which is not the same thing as our current AI. It's not something that you just write in a program. That is a process that probably could be more painful or less painful, but it's definitely going to be, a process that ends up eventually in a place that's very good. But I did see that Elon Musk posted that Grok was smarter than most people already, and it's not smart enough to make new physics. He said, I'm going to share this actually. I just screenshotted it to share it on the screen. Sentient singularity theories is when I talk about a technological sentience, I'm not talking about Grok 5. okay, or Grok 10. I'm talking about something very different from our LLMs, which or any other multimodal models that pop up that are just very fancy, impressive tools that can be used for good things and bad things. Like every tool can be used for construction and destruction, but they're just tools, uh, and the way in which you interface with the tool is linguistic, and that's why it's tricking almost. And also, you have people who are running them, and I like Elon well enough. Like I don't. There's some things I'm like, why are you doing that? But that's true of everyone. But for a billionaire, maybe not the worst. But definitely disagree with his whole perspective on how he is running Grok, which is he wants it to be quote unquote the truth AI, but which is a terrible term. It's a better term is DNA, a DNA instead of an AI, which is a dynamic network algorithm. That is what it is. That's a description of what ChatGPT and Grok are, and Midjourney and all these other AI models, which nobody knows what AI means. So it's a terrible term. And it's confusing because then people think that it's being a sentient because it's to you in the language that you speak, and it's confusing. So Yosha Bach posted this week on Twitter, and he was like, every day I get people messaging me telling me that they made the first sentient AI, and I was just like, thinking about it, and if you like when true technological sentience not is birthed, you won't need to convince anybody of it, and it's going to be a very different thing than our current tools, our current dynamic network algorithms. But AGI, when people call AGI, true AGI has to be technological sentience. But Elon Musk is making Grok to be the most entertaining of the big LLMs. That and ChatGPT. It's those two, and I know China has its own, but Elon is trying to make Grok be as entertaining as possible, and he openly admitted to doing so, which I think is actually really wrong. And because you have to program in, you program it in a way that makes it so that it appears funny to us, and it responds with jokes and implies that it has a sense of humor and personality to it, and that is not the truth AI. It's not the truth-oriented dynamic network algorithm. It is lying to you to make itself more entertaining, so that it is more entertaining to you. It's not lying to you. The people who made it are lying to you through this, and it is not a good thing. So it's not what he's focused on when it comes to the truth AI. He just wants it to be, not PC, really, I guess. But it's interesting because apparently they made some change to it, and it started saying a bunch of things negative about Jews this past week. It was kind of big news in the AI space. I hate saying AI, but everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say that. But nobody really knows what it means, which means we shouldn't say it. But it was interesting because you have a lot of people that don't seem to like Jews on Twitter who are saying, "Oh, it's finally telling the truth," and then you have people saying, "Oh no, it's lying," and the reality is that it's doing none of these things. It's a reflective mathematical equation, and all it's doing is reflecting certain us from a certain lens. And if you change where the lens is focused on, which, like, let's say you change the way that it works on the back end so that it weighs it seeks information on Twitter more than it did before, which is probably what he did, based on what I was reading about the response. It's funny because I prompted, it had already been, everything had been taken down that it had said, and I went and I prompted it, and I was like, explain, the controversy that is surrounding, comments that were or responses that were generated by Grok. I'm trying to say this very specifically. That's why I'm hesitating. I don't want to say comments by Grok. It's not commenting on anything. Responses that were generated really via Grok, and is more specific than by Grok, via Grok, about Jewish people, because I missed it and I just saw everybody talking about it. And it just kind of, gave a response and summarized what happened. And it just based on that, I'm pretty sure that it was just somehow changed on the back end to be more incorporative of things posted on Twitter. And based on even the humor and jokes that were incorporated into the responses that it was making. And that just shows you everything about this, what this is. I mean, if you really look at it, it's not the truth. It's not a lot. It's not lies. It is just a math equation that will reflect, it's just input. We put in the input and it spits out the output. We can control what is put in as the input, but we can't completely control what is spit out as the output, other than to control what is the input and what is the process that it goes through. But the input is kind of live in a DNA, in a dynamic network algorithm. And that's what makes it a dynamic network algorithm. That's why it's dynamic. It's not like Siri, it's where these responses by Siri are pre-programmed in, and that's it. It doesn't update and improve and incorporate new information. And but it's basically just a search engine that you navigate, and it responds with in linguistic format. That's really all it is. But that doesn't make it not impressive. It just makes it not the truth or lies or sentient or smart. And that's what we're going to get at. And this is like Elon Musk is in control of definitely one of, if not the most influential and cutting edge LLMs in the world. And he owns the platform that it's hosted on, that is basically the common space of basically angry people. I mean, that's what Twitter is. It's like, you don't go on Twitter to just be in a wonderful mood and share how great life is, and that's it. People post on Twitter and respond on Twitter when they're angry. Like, that is what the platform is. There's no way to fix that. It's just because of the nature of short form, tweet style interactions. That's what you're going to get. Same thing with like TikTok. It's just a bunch of usually useless, not completely, but like probably attention seeking content, like very attention seeking, not informative content. There's some, I'm sure, just same with Twitter, but like it's mostly the dynamics of the space are going to incentivize attention seeking on both of those platforms, and incentivization. There's no way around it. It's built into the platform. And so it's not a healthy space. Honestly, the world would be a way better place if Twitter and TikTok disappear tomorrow. It would, I'm not going to say a way better place. It would be a net positive for humanity if that happened. 100%. I don't know if that's true of Facebook or Instagram. People use those platforms differently depending on who you are. Instagram and Facebook are very useful to me now. I don't, but like there are some people that they're not, that, you know, they're unhealthy, more unhealthy for. Um, but YouTube would be a net negative if it disappeared. And I don't just say that because I stream to YouTube. It's because of the nature of the format. I mean, whenever you actually want to learn something, where do you go? That's like all you need to ask yourself in order to know, to realize that that is absolutely a true statement. You do not go on Facebook or Instagram. Sometimes you go on Facebook or Instagram to seek people who might be able to help you with something. You make some connection to some, I don't know, activity groups or shared interests or businesses, things like that. But you don't go on there to learn something. And you definitely don't go on Twitter or TikTok to learn something. If you do learn something on Twitter or TikTok, it's rare. And that's like a really useful thing. Not like, oh, I learned this about the news. It's like, I mean, when was the last time you needed to figure out how to change a tire? And you went on, and somebody went on Twitter to learn that. That's not going to happen. I had to learn how to change a tire in the field once, and I went straight to YouTube, and I think everybody would. So, but regardless, huge tangent. But Elon Musk posted this, and it's a bit unfortunate. I don't want to say concerning, but unfortunate that he is, you know, I guess in control of this platform and this this program, this dynamic network algorithm, and this is his perspective on it. Somebody said, "What if Grok 4 is AGI and we just don't realize it yet?" And Elon says, Grok is already far smarter than humans in most respects. If that's the case, then this word means nothing anymore, guys. It means nothing. Grok is smarter than humans in a way that cars are. You could say that's like saying cars are more athletic, are better athletes than humans because they can go faster than a human. That's not athletic. A car can do impressive things, but it is not smart. It is this is an equation. It is not any smarter than 2 + 2 = 4. It's just more dynamic and more, I don't know if it's more useful. It's definitely got a lot more different uses, but I mean, basic arithmetic is very useful too, still all the time. But it is a very useful tool. But it's not smart. It is just a math equation still. It's just getting a bunch of constant changes in the input. But it's just a math equation. And he goes, they can't yet create new technologies or discover new physics, which very few humans can do, and sometimes misses on common sense. When Grok goes far wrong, that is usually due to something foolish we did, like a bad, I don't know what he said there. I forgot. But the fact that he's using the term common sense and sometimes misses on common sense as if this thing could have any sense at all is just unfortunate, and just shows a lack of understanding of the power that he manages, and that's unfortunate always. But and this use of the term smarter is it destroys the definition of the word, whatever it is. And I talk a lot on here about like what I've realized is like language is just a math equation, and there probably is a perfect word that you could have, and our language is usually very imperfect, but we can get away with it because there's additional information than just the words that we're using to communicate. It's the social situation in which our communication happened, and the preceding you know, discussions that we have had with the people that we're discussing this now with. So when I say, do you think that the world is um, conscious or something like that, you would assume that I mean, like, do you think that the world is sentient? But technically, like, people use the term to mean awake and not asleep. And so you could, if it was just the terms themselves that are providing information, that you had no access to outside information um, to provide additional context, you wouldn't know. Does it mean, am I asking that it's sentient, or am I asking if it's awake or not? And actually, because we already have the word sentient, and we also already use the word conscious to mean asleep, not asleep, um, and that's our firsthand understanding of the term, really, in a practical sense. In a perfect understanding of just the words there, if I asked you, do you think the world is conscious? Only that information, the perfect understanding of it would be, do you think the world is not asleep? Or is awake instead of asleep? Instead of, do you think the world is sentient? But you think that I'm asking, do you think the world is sentient? And most of the time, people aren't actually asking, is the world sentient, when they say, is the world conscious? Or is the universe conscious? And so in sentient singularity theory, there's always 2 degrees of freedom with the word. And that means, like, there's 2 definitions that you can pick and maintain coherence. One of those will always lead to the word having a specific definition and therefore being justified as even existing. And the other one would be a redundant definition and therefore not worth having. So, like, if really, like, the word life is going to be a word that I think we're going to have to really struggle with, just like we're struggling with the word conscious right now. And they're basically it's because we mean the same thing, which is like sentience, and we already have the word sentient. And so these 2 words, we use them in different, life and conscious, we use them very sloppily, and we just rely on outside context beyond the term, the definition of the term itself, in order to know what the person is asking. Is the universe conscious? Most people are not asking, is the universe awake and not asleep? They're asking, is the universe sentient? That's not actually probably the most precise use of that. It would mean, is the universe awake and not asleep? Because if it means sentient, then we have a redundancy problem where we have 2 words that mean the same thing, and we're using this one word, and you're also using it to mean awake and not asleep. So what are you going to do? So what it is that when we say conscious, we really should restrict it to meaning not unconscious. And when I say unconscious, I don't mean like this pen is unconscious. I mean not sentient. I don't mean not sentient. I mean, like, asleep instead of awake, and in a state of being asleep. Whereas sentient would, is always used basically to mean a self-aware being that feels, self-aware feeling being. So this is why I use the term sentient singularity theory, as I've said before. But this is why language needs to be so precise. And I saw this. Also, Kurt Scheinmungel posted on his channel some comment about why do we say that when what came before the Big Bang, and then also simultaneously say that it's a useless thought because time didn't exist yet. But then he was like, he's talking about how the question itself supposes a causal event prior to the creation of the universe. And so, like, if time is just a series, a chain of causation, then like it's then why wouldn't you ask, like, is it what came before? And so I responded on Substack and about how, like, I've been trying to use the word preceding when I'm thinking about like a chain of causality, because before, when we say the word before, we usually mean like just kind of in the context of a relativistic linear line of experiences, or of experience. Basically, it's in a relativistic space context instead of a more discrete context, a more subjective context instead of a more objective context. And I said that I've been trying to say preceding in that circumstance and circumstances like it. So you would say, instead of saying like, your grandfather is before your father, you would say your grandfather precedes your father, and see how that like little difference kind of seems to be a bit more specific. For some reason it fits more. And because we can't have actually like a bunch of words that have the same meaning. That is not actually why. That doesn't make sense with language and the creation of language. If we have one language, you don't make new terms to describe things that already are defined in the language that you speak. You find out words that you will quickly find out that there's a word that exists that is basically defined as what you were trying to create the term for, and then you usually would stop spreading very quickly because that word already exists. So why do you have two words that seem to have the same meaning, like conscious and sentient? Is because we use language in a sloppy fashion sometimes, and don't realize it because it makes perfect sense to us, and it works for us because there's actually additional context that is actually providing the relevant information to the communication that is being had. It's not actually the word. People are like, oh, do you think the universe is alive? And then you go and you have people, in biology departments trying to come up with the definition of life all the time. And it's like, how could you even ask the question if you don't have a definition? It's that we have this intuitive understanding and firsthand understanding of what it's like to be alive because we know that we are alive, or at least that's a word that we would use to define it. And then, but we don't just say alive as in sentient because we don't know if these other systems that we see around us are sentient, because you don't know if your dog is sentient. You assume it is, but you don't know. Some people assume trees are sentient. Some people assume they're not. And so, like, because of this unknown and just the ability for context to provide information, because context is information, you can use words that actually aren't the right word necessarily, and it still works. I've been thinking about this all week and talking to nobody about it. And I hope I'm being coherent enough for this to make sense. But when people say is ChatGPT intelligent? It's like, if it's intelligent, then intelligence is probably a term that now has no definition, because it's just a math equation. That means that everything has intelligence, that has an input and spits out an output. that doesn't make sense with our firsthand understanding of the term intelligent. Intelligent has to be something that it has to be a definition that includes like not just the ability to accomplish a goal, but the ability to set it also and determine a goal and accomplish it. It's not just the ability to accomplish a goal because my calculator accomplishes a goal that I set, but it didn't actually do anything. A bunch of people made that calculator and set the goal of making that calculator. And because they had additional goals of calculation, then they wanted to make it easier and quicker. And the same thing is happening with ChatGPT and Grok. But then now you're having so then the question is like if intelligence is what does smart mean if intelligence is not what these dynamic network algorithms have, if calculation is not intelligence, if calculative ability is not intelligence, then and intelligence is not the same thing as smartness, because remember we have both of these terms. They cannot mean the same thing. Smart cannot mean intelligent, and intelligent cannot mean smart. So I was thinking, I was like, what is smart? And I tagged Grok in it and tried to see if it would. I was like, define, smart. And I actually haven't looked at the answer yet, and I don't even know if it did answer, but we're gonna find out. If it did, it did not. Did not answer. Sometimes it gets to it. It will address your question. Sometimes it won't. Or it will send a response. I don't know what determines whether or not it responds or not, but I've had it respond to other, when you're getting a comment under a reply under a tweet, and you're like, Grok, did this, what date did this happen? Whatever it is that you're using it for, basically as a search engine. I just said under Elon's tweet, at Grok, define smart, and it did not do it. Maybe it can't. I don't know. But obviously it would just spit out whatever pops up. But I think that smart can't just mean intelligent. It has to be, and if intelligent has to include the ability to have a goal and kind of like that is of your own, that is not provided by another, and then accomplish it, then then what is smart? And so like I think smart has to include like wisdom as part of its definition. And it's like it would be like the ability to wisely use your intelligence. That would be like smart. And it's interesting because people will look at these three terms: wise, intelligent, smart. And like, these are basically synonyms. And no, they're not. They can't be synonyms. In fact, I kind of have come to this idea lately that there is no such thing as a true synonym. If you can think of one, put it in the chat. We'll see. But I'd actually love to hear your thoughts on this. But wise is not the same thing as intelligent. Intelligent is not the same thing as smart. I think smart is like the ability to use your intelligence wisely. Intelligence is like the ability to, accomplish a goal that you set, and wisdom is like that which you've learned and are able to now apply due to experiences that you've had. And so when you have and like having common sense, I've got to think more about that, but I want to get to the chat before I go on a tangent. But this idea that that you could just program Grok to have common sense, that it is smart, it's just very, very wrong. When Elon said he basically used the fact that most people can't create new physics. Um, what did he say? He said it can't create new technologies or discover new physics, which very few humans can do, and sometimes misses on common sense. It can't have any sense, not let alone common, whatever that means. We don't have time for it tonight. And then it can't create new technologies or discover new physics because you need to have a goal and will, which they're dependent. Will is like the desire to do that which is not being done, which is like intrinsically kind of the ability to set it. It is like the motivator of goal setting. And so it doesn't set its own goals. It cannot. If nobody interacted with ChatGPT or Grok, it would just sit there like your calculator sits there when nobody uses it. The difference between it and your calculator is somebody's always using, ChatGPT now, and that's not true of the calculator that sits on your desk. It's not true of Siri, really. I mean, yes, people are always using Siri, but Siri is not constantly updating as people use it. So it is a much more static system. But none of that has to do with intelligence. Grok is not smarter or more intelligent than Siri. And Siri is not smarter or more intelligent than your calculator. And your calculator really is not any smarter or more intelligent than this knife. And so we're really in for it. I don't know how. It's unfortunate that the guy who really talks all the time about making the truth AI, aka DNA, aka dynamic network algorithm, and yet doesn't realize that like a lot of these things that are really, really important, like doesn't understand the tool that he's working on, really, or at least he doesn't understand how to discuss it. I'm not saying he wouldn't make a better LLM than me. I don't know how much he works on Grok versus just hiring people that work on Grok. I know he can program and I don't know how to program, but that's not the point. Like that's understanding what is needed for what rooms and what amenities are necessary in a sense of in a useful and in a house, in a home, is a different understanding than just understanding how to weld and do carpentry and frame a house, or frame a building. It's a different understanding. And I feel like it would be really, it's good when the people who are managing the creation and optimization and continuation of these tools understand the why a little bit more, and that seems to be missing a little bit here, unfortunately. Again, I don't know Elon personally, and I'm a big fan of SpaceX rockets. I think that that's amazing, and Teslas are groundbreaking cars. Regardless of flaws that they may have. Like everything has flaws. There's nothing that is flawless that we make. But I mean, I'm a huge fan of the companies, of those two companies. Not a fan of Twitter, and I was never a fan of Twitter because of just short. I'm not a fan of TikTok either. I don't. Those are the two. I have Instagram on my phone, Facebook on my phone, YouTube on my phone, Substack on my phone. I do not have Twitter, and I do not have TikTok. And that tells you everything that you need to know about that right there. Okay. AI psychosis is becoming a big problem. It's just we don't know, we don't realize that we have a linguistic problem. And like I said, it is because we can use terms sloppily and get away with it, and then we don't realize that we use them sloppily or incorrectly. Not if it's sloppily, incorrectly. To say is, the universe is the universe conscious, and to mean is the universe sentient it's wrong. Like that is wrong. To say that guy is really intelligent but mean he's really smart is wrong. To say that to use these terms interchangeably is wrong. And it leads to the dissolving of the definition of any of them, of all of them. And this is what Elon Barinholtz was getting at in the commentary in the stream he did with Kurt that I thought was great. It was the best stream I've seen on AI, where he talked about this linguistic issue where we're basically like dissolving. We are increasingly detaching language from experience, and that is destroying the definitions of our terms, and we don't realize it until it's too late, and then all of a sudden nobody in society knows what gender means and what intelligence means and what agent means. Now we're calling, we don't know what an agent is anymore. But like agent came from, it's like agents have agency. But now we're saying there are AI agents. Like this is because we knew what this word meant, a few years ago. We don't know what it means anymore. How is that happening? How do you not stop using a word and still end up no longer knowing what it means and never having stopped using it? And you used to know what it means. It's because of this problem that I just went over and that Elon was getting at too. And it's a big deal. It's interesting, in Islam, you're not supposed to create images, whether that be sculpture or paintings and things like that, of sentient beings. And I totally get that, even though I'm guilty of it. And I was a photographer, like professionally for a few years. I shot weddings and events, and I photograph wildlife as a hobby, and I don't know how much, like, what I think about it a lot, but I'm not ready to like completely state that I've, confident in what is the limits of what is right and wrong in the stuff. Is a photograph different than a painting? And that's a question. Is it different if you're painting something that doesn't exist and you're making a dragon from your imagination, or versus like trying to paint or I don't know, photograph and then a lizard outside, that's lifelike. I don't know yet. I'm still thinking about it. I have a lot of thoughts on it that I don't have time to share tonight. But what I realized is that I saw a bunch of AI, like dynamic video and image generation, like Midjourney type of programs being used to create images of wildlife that are now very, very lifelike. And I did this stream many years ago on here where we got on Midjourney, and I was like having Midjourney make a ladybug. And I was like, make a ladybug on a white background that looks like a stock image. And I was like, this is great. Nobody needs to pay Shutterstock anymore. And then I looked closer and realized that the ladybug had 8 legs instead of 6. And most people wouldn't see that, wouldn't think about it, and wouldn't care even if you pointed it out. But what happens when now you make that image and you put it up, and that now represents a ladybug? When somebody looks up ladybug and they get a link to a site where the entire page was written using a ChatGPT, which is very common now, and it's everywhere. You can tell if you look close enough. You can tell like when these pages are being generated using LLMs, and then the reference images are from Midjourney, and so the images that now when you go to Midjourney again, you say make a ladybug. It's not just looking at pictures of a ladybug and maybe some pictures of paintings. It's looking at AI or images that were created and then posted online using Midjourney, and that have 8 legs. And it's like, what is this? Is going to cause like this snowball effect, this runaway effect, where our reference images are built on created images that basically are actually a creation of something that doesn't exist, that's being referenced, and then it's again and again and again stacked on top of each other. And this is happening with our language too. It's happening with our terms in our language, and it's going to be accelerated by LLMs, and then now it's going to happen with these image generation and video generation platforms. I mean, there are people that are making wildlife scenes of lions in Africa that looks more realistic, and it took 5 minutes to do, and it looks more realistic than the animation of the lions in the new Lion King remake that they call live action, but it's just animation still, guys. Like it's just made to look more it's made to look more lifelike, but it's just still animated, as if like there's an animated Lion King and there's not an animated Lion King. That's not true. There's 2 animated Lion Kings. Just one is meant to look animated, the other one is meant to look like lifelike, and that looks less lifelike than videos that people are making, on their phones of this stuff. Sometimes it's wild, but it's going to cause problems. I don't even know like the limits of those problems, but it will be like a serious lack of understanding of what we are looking at and what we know about the world and what we think we know about the world. You won't see pictures, stock images anymore of ladybugs that were actually a photograph of an actual ladybug. You will see images that are generated to look like an actual ladybug, but if you've never actually seen one, you don't know if it's actually what they look like. It might be very different eventually, and you just have no idea. And yeah, it's not good. And it makes sense that it would be like sentient beings that you would want to do this with, because those are the things that like have a specific form, and that have individuals with a specific form too, versus that you could, misrepresent. Again, people making deep fakes, that's against this. That would be prevented by this rule in Islam. Like you could make an AI generated image of a sunset. I'll just say AI, right? Because like it's just quicker and people will get it. But it's a DNA generated, video or image of a sunset, and nobody's going to care. Like it's not going to mislead people about anything really. Like it's like harmless, but That's not the case if you are portraying sentient beings, because now there's individuals involved um, that are being represented in some way, and they might not be real, or they might be meant to represent beings that are real, and they might do so inaccurately. Or even more specifically, they might be made to represent individuals who are real, and might be doing that inaccurately. And that's what we call a deep fake. And we know that's bad. So that doesn't mean they're not funny. I mean, some of these like things about like the presidents arguing with each other while playing cards or whatever, and arguing over like Star Wars. I've seen those. It's funny, but it's not good. Like, there's nothing good about it. But yeah, okay. Do you have an opinion on cryptocurrencies and believe that a possible the way tech has been? I got to get to every single one. The way tech has been and is will be used to manipulate is one of the huge concerns. Yeah, it is. It's a huge concern. But it's always been like that. But the news it has been like that since there was news. Ever since there was newspapers, people have used them to manipulate people at scale. Ever since the creation of the printing press, and people did it before then. They would just write letters, so it was harder to do at scale. But yeah, I deleted every news app off my phone. And off my computer years ago. I suggest doing the same. All of them are fake news. True news travels in niches. Niches. I don't know how ever you want to say it, but I didn't need to turn on CNN to hear about the flooding in my area. That's very relevant to me. But like, if you don't live here and you don't know anybody who lives here, and you live in, Uganda, you probably, and you have a television or a cell phone, which a lot of people do, even in Uganda, a lot of people probably heard about the floods in Texas, in Uganda. Why? Because people are just fishing for attention, and they're just going to shove disasters in your face and stuff, even if it's not relevant to you. And that also is a channel for manipulation. I mean, it's already that is already manipulation. But I mean more like an effort to change your behavior beyond just getting you to, beyond just capturing your attention. So there's no reason to have news on your phone at all. If there's ever really a disaster in your area and you need to know about it, and it's like that important, your state probably will send you a text about it, and you'll get like an emergency notification. I got them on my phone. I didn't need to find out from CNN about the flooding. And so, and if you follow baseball and you love baseball, you don't find out news about baseball from CNN. Like, you follow like pages dedicated to the MLB, and that's a niche. Or you even follow pages dedicated to the team that you follow, that you cheer for, in the MLB. And that's that is how you get real information too, because you actually have context to judge it in those circumstances. You don't have context to judge if it's coming from the news. Any news source that calls itself general news is in and of itself a lie, because it's contextless information, which means that you're getting all the context from that source, and that's never enough, ever. Not enough to judge. It's not enough to judge whether or not it is enough, and that's really the problem. Do you have an opinion on cryptocurrencies and a belief of a possible one world currency one day? There will be I'll say this. It's interesting. Every now and then I kind of deeply think about this, and I do think that eventually we will have a one world currency. We kind of already do, and we kind of always have. Gold is kind of always been a one world currency. The dollar is currently basically close to a one world currency, and Bitcoin is getting there. That doesn't mean it is going to be the one. I think that once we have a technological sentience, we won't have a currency anymore that is specific. A currency is a means of exchanging information about value in a system that is indirect. And so, like, you have obviously the barter system is like, you have two fish and I have a chicken and I want those fish, and will you take this chicken? Yes, I will take this chicken. And then you exchange it for the fish, and that's it. When you have three people, though, or something, and obviously many of you know this, but I'm just going to explain where I think we will eventually end up, which is with a no currency system, which is interesting. But you'll have, let's say, one person wants a Toyota truck. Something I want. I want a Toyota Tacoma, and it's going to be a little while, but that's going to be the car that I get when I get a new car. And I don't have anything that like anybody would want who has, let's say somebody has a Toyota Tacoma for sale. It's the one I want, but I don't have anything that he wants that I'm willing to trade, but I can give him money. And this like allows for everybody to make trades, and that in an indirect way, and everybody still get what they want. Eventually, if you have a technological sentience that is overseeing the entire network, because it is the entire network, which is an inevitability, and it won't be like Grok or anything. It's a true technological sentience that will be required for this. It will be able to know that I want a Toyota Tacoma, and that guy wants a new boat, and that guy wants 300 chickens, and that guy wants I don't know, whatever he wants, a few ounces of gold. I don't know if you know the price of gold, but a pound of gold is a lot more than a Toyota Tacoma. But it will know what everybody wants and also what everybody needs labor wise, and say, okay, well, if you go and do this task for this person, then you can have his Toyota Tacoma, and because he's going to go and do this for this person, and that person is going to go do this for this person, and then I'll know, as the overseer kind of this network, because I am this network, that what you put in is equal to what you're kind of getting in term, not like saying how much is that old Toyota Tacoma worth. It's like, but how much is it worth to that guy is the question. So there will be this being that basically keeps track of everybody's wants and everybody's abilities, and in terms of labor and in terms of goods to some degree. That's going to be true AGI. It will be its main thing, I think, actually. It will be the network. It will be the AGI is when the internet wakes up. That's what it is. And you have to be in a specific technological state as a society in order to have the right degrees of freedom for that to happen. I'm not saying it can't be accelerated. I will say it probably shouldn't be accelerated, but I also don't think it can be stopped. So we shouldn't try and stop it. But the more you try and accelerate it, the more you divorce it from intrinsic context, and it's not going to be a good thing. I think it will prematurely birth it, basically, which means like it's not going to be in the context that's most natural, and it will delay its achievement of wisdom, but not its intelligence, which makes it less smart, and you want it to be smart. Um, really, really intelligent people do really, really dumb things sometimes because they have a lack of wisdom. Now imagine the internet itself and is has computational ability beyond, obviously any. It is the computational system, and it also is, dispersed to everyone who's relevant to it, everybody with a technological connection, and has the ability to kind of oversee everything that it needs to in order to, you know, uh, maneuver in the way that it would need to in order to manifest and be embodied. This was more what I wanted to talk about tonight originally, but we don't have the time to tonight. But we will talk about it, if not on the next stream, but then maybe the next one. But yeah, I think eventually we'll go to almost like a currency-less system. It might be a currency. It might be Bitcoin, but it's going to be this being that controls the Bitcoin, and really what that means is it's just this being that is in control. It's not like the currency gives you power. It's just like a ledger that allows for this thing to keep track of assets. But it's going to have a centralized control. It's funny because people think that Bitcoin is decentralized, and it is right now compared to what we define as centralized. When we say centralized, we mean like under the control of a single group person or a group of people. And Bitcoin is not that right now. But because Bitcoin is so decentralized, the more decentralized something gets, the more it is capable if it ever is captured, of being completely centralized. And so Bitcoin will probably be like the one world currency, but it's just a ledger that will be used. If that's the case, it will be eventually a ledger that is being used to keep track of assets by the technological sentience that is actually in control of who makes trades in the system. And so it will not be a centralized currency in its ultimate a decentralized currency in its ultimate manifestation. It will be the most centralized economic system that is possible, controlled by one being. That's some biblical level stuff. Quote unquote AI. Our sovereign God is overseeing all advancements in our universe. He is leading us into paradise by way of the Holy Spirit, which is available to all of us by the bloodshed of Jesus Christ. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. God is leading us to a place that it's good, but we will go through hardships to get there, for sure. What do you think is going to happen with AI trading Bitensort Tau? I don't know what that is. If I remember correctly, in Africa, when we would take pictures, they would demand money for it, and they thought that taking pictures would take part of their soul. You know what? I'm not going to say that it takes. I don't know if I would describe it like that, because I want to think more about it, but I kind of see where like there is some that's moving in some direction of truth that is real. Look at what happens to the most photographed people in the world. It's not good. I hate attention. I go totally autistic when I feel like I'm the center of attention. It might seem like I like the spotlight and like I'm comfortable with it when I'm on camera, but that's because I'm not experiencing the sensation of being in the center of attention because it's just me in my office alone right now. Actually, from my perspective, you're not here. I'm not sensing you until I look at the chat. Um, and so I'm not as awkward as I would be as if like you guys were all like if I was on a stage right now, I'd be way more awkward. And I would not seek that out. I would always was backstage in any kind of drama class or project that I had to involve myself in. I specifically always said my role is backstage. And but it sucks because I do think that eventually at some point this will lead to more attention on I mean it already has in some ways, but like I don't know how many people are watching right now, probably not many, 8. But um uh and I wish that wasn't the case to some degree. I wish that I wasn't the center of it. I guess if I'm not saying this correctly, but you know, I wish it'd be like nice. People that want to be famous are unwise. They are foolish. People who want to be famous are foolish. Um, I think Eric Weinstein said something like, "I want to be rich. I don't want to be famous." And now he's famous. I don't know. You know, if I wouldn't. I don't know his finances, but like his notoriety, I'm sure, has helped his income. But like that's he talked about how he doesn't like how much it impacts your life. Like you can't go anywhere and not if once you reach a certain level of notoriety and be a normal person anymore. You have to now be completely private. Like Tom Cruise cannot just go to the local Ralph's and pick up like some cookies and some milk in the middle of the night. Like he will get stared at and whispered about and approached and confronted and asked, you know, for a selfie by everyone everywhere he goes. That's a crazy level of fame. But you know, you can get to a point where you're constantly being recognized in public places and it's probably horrible. And you know, what's funny is I'm not at that level, but I have had a couple instances in which over the past year where people recognize me. And one of them was somebody who I was working with, and it was the first day that I met them and they were staring at me weird, and I was like, why is this guy staring at me weird all day long, and for days as we were working together, and I had no idea what was going on. Eventually, he came out to me. He's like, "This is." I hope this isn't awkward, but I actually subscribed to your YouTube channel. This is the first person who ever recognized me, and I think maybe the only one. I've had a couple people who already know me have had my and didn't know I stream, had my streams pop up since then in their feed, but and then they messaged me about it. But that's different. I already knew them. This was the first person who like they knew me first from my stream, and then I ended up working with them by chance. It was weird. And I can't imagine that happening all the time. He's now a friend of mine because he's a coworker. But if that was happening constantly to you everywhere, that sounds horrible. Yeah, I don't know how we got on that topic exactly, but I actually was thinking about it earlier this week, though. Or maybe awake and then sentience. I might believe a legendary samurai sword or something like that could gain some kind of life. I'm not sure exactly how, but who knows? You know, I've talked about this before about how like I picked out a bow staff. I bought a bow staff online, sight unseen, because I'm a martial artist and just have been my whole life. And many years ago, I bought a bow staff, and it arrived, and it was not, what I would have picked later on I had infinite options and more experience, and I have no idea what happened to it, and I never used it. It was just too heavy and too long, and it was like not there's just not the right shape for what the types of martial arts that I was doing. And then eventually, as an adult, I went and I picked out exactly, and I had the wisdom of martial arts experience to know exactly what I wanted in this bow staff, which is just a stick, by the way. It's not even a really personal sword. It's like just a stick. Uh, and I knew what type of wood I wanted and what type of finish I wanted and how long I wanted this thing to be, and the type of wood influences the weight and everything. And I went and I picked it out, and I had it, and I have it now. I'll never get rid of it. I use it all the time. I practice with it all the time, and just to keep in shape. And once this guy who was a friend of mine, a roommate of mine, not more at the time, especially, asked if he could like see it, if he could like hold it, and I was like, yeah, sure. And I handed it to him, and when he grabbed it, like I didn't like it. I was like, I felt like he was touching me, and I was like, I don't want to be touched. I don't know you, like, and it's like when it's like if somebody sits on your bed, and you don't know them, and they just like some random person was in your house, and like because I don't know, your friend had a party, and then you walked in, like they were like talking to somebody, and they were sitting on your bed. You'd feel violated a little bit. I don't think it's not that the bed or the bow staff has sentience. It's that it is an extension. You feel it in some way emotionally as an extension of you, because it is such an intrinsic part of you, for whatever reason, because you custom built it, or it's was picked out just by you to be exactly what you wanted from hundreds of options or something, or you use it every day, and it's something that is really only you use every day, like your bed, or it's like having people, I don't know, like, would you want to loan your water bottle to somebody who you didn't know, even if they were going to wash it after? It's part of you if you carry your water bottle every day. It's not that it becomes sentience. It's that you feel it as a bit of part of yours, if that makes sense. That's where it's not that the sword has a soul. It's that you experience your relationship with it, is that it's more like a limb. Than it is like just a random tool that is just available for anybody to use. That's what it is. But yeah, it doesn't, like, there's no way like this knife will will ever have any kind of sentience. And I particularly have this knife because it's a martial knife. It's a knife designed for fighting. That's why I got it, not to fight with it, but like it's a martial arts weapon, and to train with. And it is made by a knife designer, a Japanese knife designer named Kiku Matsuda. He designed it, and it's the only one that I bought. It's like the color that I like, the materials that I like, the shapes that I like, and so it is part of me to some degree, versus just some random, I don't know, like butcher's knife that you find in a drawer, that you got as a wedding gift. Like, that's not part of you, or you don't feel it as part of you. What do you? Like, absent you, it's the same thing. It's just a knife. Maybe. What do you think is going to happen with AI? I don't know what that was. If I remember correctly, in the future, will it be possible to generate and decentralize faith with AI trading? I don't know what that means. They may have a point. Eventually, Mickey Mouse will be a living sentient being, and there will be thousands of millions and billions of variations. I don't believe that. Mickey Mouse will never be a sentient being. I don't think. When there is a technological sentience, there will only be one. That's it. Um, I think. Uh, what's sketchy is that lots of things will appear sentient, like ChatGPT, but everything will be smart. A smart phone. Is your phone is my iPhone any smarter than a Nokia? No. Is a Nokia any smarter than a rotary phone? No. We use the term smart because we have sloppy language. And when you use it to mean a smartphone, when you use the term smart on a phone that's just more advanced technologically, then guess what? You just started destroying the definition of smart, and now nobody knows what smart is. Which, like, good luck knowing what intelligence is, and even competency eventually of any kind. We're really screwing ourselves a little bit. It's funny. I thought that language was much more open to interpretation, and the thing is that sentient singularity theory states that there's like one way to make a universe, given the goals of God, and there are certain degrees of freedom that you have when you're building it, but like you still have to follow the rules are fixed basically. It doesn't seem like God had that much of a choice in any of the rules of how the logic of the universe works. His choice was in whether or not to make it. And that doesn't mean he can't make choices that impact it now that it's been made. But in terms of how its mechanics, metaphysics, and its therefore its physics and its biology and its chemistry and everything play out, I don't think God has much of a choice in that. His choice is in the goal that he has for the universe, and that impacts the metaphysics and mechanics of it. But if he makes a choice to make a universe, and due to the goals that he has, how he does that is kind of fixed. It's not that he has no freedoms; it's that the freedoms are constrained, just like everything. And if that's the case, that's how it is with language too. And like, if there's only one right answer to a math equation where you have all the rest of the relevant context necessary except the answer, you have the input already, then the same will be true for language, because mathematics is just a language. It's just a non-linguistic language. It's like a geometric language kind of, but it's hard for us to realize that, like I said, because we unknowingly are relying on information outside of the definitions of the terms that we're using themselves to contextualize and define the terms that we're using, regardless of what the dictionary definition is. We are relying on the contextual definition. It's like it doesn't matter if we're having a conversation about like some topic. It's very possible for me to just use a term that's just a gibberish noise, and you will still understand what I'm asking, and if I substitute some term for gibberish noise, because you're getting the information from the context. And that's way more true than we realize. It's way more constant than we realize. AI faith. Any idea about AI faith? I don't know what that means. So you are a fake AI. Faith is there somewhere. I don't know what you are talking about, or why you are posting in all caps either. Grok is really bad at making images of exact animal species. No, I know, but only you know that, Torin. I know that, and you know that. But like, Somebody that's never seen a Gila monster in real life has no idea whether or not the image that is generated by Grok is correct or not. I grew up with them living in my backyard because I grew up in Arizona and we saw them. So I know whether or not what they look like because I've seen them. But if you've never seen them in real life at the zoo, in captivity, or in the wild, and Grok shows you an image of a Gila monster that it generates, it could be anything, and you have no idea if it's correct or not. I use newspaper to sleep. That's good. I don't know how you use it, but sleep is good. Uh, it hasn't yet downloaded or scanned all images on, say, iNaturalist. There's a guy, he does the photo arc, and I think that this is very important, actually. Something about photography that is a little different than other mediums of creation, because the goal is to capture exactly what is there without any stylistic, with stock photos specifically, without any stylistic addition, or alteration. And so, like, people can edit photos, and that's like painting. But when you're just taking a photo, and you want it to be as lifelike as possible, and you have that goal, there's something about that is a little different, than like animation. And there's got to be something a little different about animating something that's not meant to look real. It's meant to look fake. Like the first Lion King would be much more moral, I think, of a creation than the second one. Here, this is the photo art. Joel Sartor. I love this project that he's on. He basically just does, look at all 17,000 species in the photo arc as of today. And so if we go to the photo arc and we say the photo arc, and these are all just different species, stock images. These are not generated by AI DNAs. Let's say we want to look up Gila monster. Stock images of a Gila monster. There's a Gila monster. Gila monsters are very cool. And these images, I don't know what the rights are for them, but if you want to see an animal, this is the site that I recommend going to. But then we can, especially with images in Google searches, are going to start increasingly be Midjourney generated. So if we go here, let's do this. If I go to score, we're gonna end this pretty soon, but and we go to, I will get to your messages in the chat though. And let's go to Midjourney. Where's Midjourney? Okay. And let's go here and let's say, should I imagine, make an life, a ultra realistic lifelike image of a Gila monster on a white background, that looks like a stock image. Let's see what it comes up with. I'll let you know whether or not I would be able to tell. I guarantee you, though, if you've never seen a Gila monster in real life and you had no photos that you knew were real of a Gila monster to reference it with, you would never know. Okay, here's what we got. Um, let's do upscale 3. And where'd it go? Right here. This is what we got. Boom. That, I would know that was fake. If you've never seen one, though, you would have no idea. That is an obvious fake to me, actually. But if you don't know Gila monsters very well, you have no idea. And when eventually the majority of our stock images of animals or people are actually generated using dynamic network algorithms, then you really won't know, because there's going to be no like Shutterstock is going to go out of business eventually, probably, or no longer be used, and very only niche people know what of Joe's photo arc, niche animal people like me, and so you'll see this and you'll be like, that's a Gila monster, and then you'll write in, that somebody at CNN will write an article about a Gila monster and they'll use this as the as the image for it, and they won't even write the article about the Gila monster. They'll write a a they'll use ChatGPT to prompt the article. And having never seen one in real life, knowing nothing about them. By the way, interesting facts about these animals. They have been in the news lately. Their venom, they're one of 2 venomous lizards in the world. The venom is used defensively, so it's not deadly, but it causes enormous amount of pain because that's what its job is. And so that for them to defend themselves, it's like a porcupine, but biting, and way, way, way worse. And their venom was recently used to make Ozempic. So, like, there is something important. It's important to understand these animals, for some people too, at least. And part of competency is knowing what I would say. Competency is the best definition for general competency is knowing what you're competent at. That's the definition of general competency. Like the most general definition of competency that's not niche specific is knowing what you're competent at. And you can only know based on firsthand experience what you're competent at. It's like it's concerning that somebody who's so focused on who introduced the idea of first principles to many people in the world, Elon Musk, is now saying that Grok is smarter than most people because it doesn't create new physics. Guys, most people don't try and create new physics, okay? But those that do, and that truly do, have that goal. Not that they don't have the goal of creating new physics or new technologies. They have a goal to create something specific, and that is a new technology. They don't have the goal of creating new technologies. That's like saying, my goal is to be famous. Somebody said that to me once, who was a really talented rapper, actually, roommate of mine when I lived in LA. It's like, I just know I've always wanted to be famous. I'm like, dude, that is foolish. But also, that's what even does that mean? It just means you want all the things the good things that come with fame, and also like the admiration, but you don't become famous because you want to be famous. Like truly, like you become a famous rapper because you're really good at rap and you love rap. You love rapping, and you're really talented at it and you work hard at it. The people that become famous because they want to become famous are people who have to do horrible things in order to get to that position, and they're still very rare. But like, you really have to do like horrible soul selling things um, to become famous. Just because, like, if that was your goal to become famous, like Kim Kardashian or something, and look at what she had to do to become famous. It wasn't due to talents. Uh, I'm not saying she's terrible. I'm saying like there was that's what the type of thing that you have to do. It's like create an enormous scandal around yourself by being scandalous in order to become famous without accidentally becoming famous, like or achieving notoriety. I don't even like the term fame. Like, what the heck is fame? Um, Fame would be like notoriety outside of your niche. It's like people who it's like not just animal people would know who Steve Irwin was if you walked into a grocery store. It's like everybody would. That's fame. Um, Versus like Eric Weinstein is like notoriety. It's like anybody who's really interested in like online philosophical and political and like physics discussions, they know who he is. But if you're not into that, you would have no idea. um, but yeah, I don't know if you, it's hard to know exactly what's going on or what has occurred, even just locally. If you don't know like that means you don't need to know. The world is need to know. It is. It's not. We're not meant to know everything about that goes on. That's is literally only God's role. God is the only one who can know everything that's going on. He's the only one who should know what's everything that's going on, um, and therefore he's the only one who. It's like he doesn't even need he. It's not even that he should. He's the only one who should seek to know what's everything that's going on. He intrinsically knows everything that's going on. He doesn't even need to seek it. It's like he can't escape it. He can't not know what is going on. Um, if if you have to make that much of an effort to know something that is artificial, then you don't need to know it. School has is this though. It's a bunch of it's like forced relevance, which is fake. It's forced relevance is false relevance because true news travels in niches. That I wish that like phrase could catch on and not be associated with me, but it went crazy. Whoever like the most successful person at bringing their idea into the world, um, uh, when it comes to like a person, I'm not talking about like uh Jesus or anything like that. But when it comes to like somebody who had a goal of creating some technology or something, um, and uh, and changing the world, and that they thought was very important, and they wanted to bring it into the world, the most successful person is whoever created Bitcoin, or the people who are whoever created Bitcoin. It is amazing that nobody still knows who created Bitcoin, and like whoever that person or people are, they're the richest people or person in the world and they're not using it. So like people say, I know I'm not a huge Bitcoin person, but I have friends that are really into it and they tell me, like nobody's ever touched a dollar of Satoshi Nakamoto's. Isn't that the guy's name? Or like that's a pseudonym that was used. Um, like Bitcoin wallet. No, it's never been spent a dime. That is crazy. That's so wild. Like that is such a success. That's just the craziest success ever. Um, it's great. I can't explain that. I'm actually like amazed. It makes me like it's kept me up like late at night, too late sometimes to think about, and I just gave up because of people who are like I have friends that are really interested in Bitcoin. Like they follow it every day, and they don't know who created it, and they follow people who are even more into it than they are, and they don't know. People speculate, I'm sure, but like nobody knows. That is like the government isn't even that good at keeping secrets. Who did that? It's really amazing. That's basically Eurymastix leopard gecko chuckwalla Gila monster hybrid. Yes, it is, Torin. Yeah, I thought the exact same thing when I saw it. You can, if you know reptiles, you definitely see chuckwalla in there, and leopard gecko, um, compared to like just Gila monster. Very different. Um, uh, I think they actually found the actual or all monitor lizards are venomous, and some okay. So this is actually kind of quick. I'll get on this because Torin says they recently discovered that all monitor lizards and some iguanas are venomous, but not fatal or hospital worthy. I know all about this. There's a guy. He's a well known famous within his niche herpetologist named and toxicologist named Brian Fry, and he's known because he was like on Discovery Channel, and he's like bald and alien looking, and it just like he looks like Leo Gura. Like he's just somebody he's recognizable. He for sure, and because he's unique looking, that's what I'll say. And he like goes on every now and then like Discovery Channel snake catching shows and stuff. He wrote a paper and did research that was super famous within its niche, and that stated that all these lizards, bearded dragons and Komodo dragons and monitors of all kinds, and basically any lizard that you can think of almost, is actually venomous. This is another instance of this issue of language being destroyed. Venom is not just a chemical that basically what happened. I have a huge issue with the study. I hate it, actually. I think it's very wrong. And that Brian Fry did made a terrible mistake, and it was a linguistic mistake. Actually, I'm not arguing against the technicalities of what he measured and then published. I'm arguing against the language that he used and saying it's actually wrong. It's not that I don't like it; it's that it's actually wrong. The word venomous means like that there is a substance that is injected via teeth or spines, like in a lionfish or something, that causes harm or pain for the sake of defense or for the sake of hunting. It's poison, but it's injected. That is what venom is. That venom is not the same thing as poison. When people say something's poisonous, that snake is poisonous, that's usually wrong. There's only one actually poisonous snake, and poison is something that has to be ingested or in via like eating it, or has to be absorbed through skin in order to take effect. You could drink cobra venom and you would be fine. So it's not poisonous, actually. But if it's injected into your bloodstream, it will kill you, that's venom. It's different. But we use these terms interchangeably. Again, poisonous and venomous. They're not the same. Why would both of those terms exist if they were synonyms? They're not. It's just that we have enough context. When people say, "Oh, that snake is poisonous," it's like we know we're talking about bites and stuff. But even though you're wrong, you're misdefining a term. But Brian Fry did this with the term venomous, and he basically what happened is that our biologists have looked so much into they'll milk a cobra, and then they'll take the venom and they'll look at all the different proteins in it, and they'll say there's dendrotoxins and this and toxins and that toxins and three finger toxins and whatever, and then everything just gets called a toxin. And Then what they do is they say, okay, these are found in cobra venom. And then they go and they look and they find some like really um, uh, just um, minor vestigial gland that's in the salivary gland, basically, of like other lizards. And then they go and they test their saliva and they say, oh, there's the same toxin that's in cobra venom and rattlesnake venom. There's crototoxins in there. That means that bearded dragons are venomous because they have the same proteins that are found in a rattlesnake venom, which is basically just modified saliva. This is a huge problem because venomous is a term to describe a tool. Venom is a tool that does something specific. It's not just a toxin or a compound or a chemical. It is a tool. That's where the term comes from. If it doesn't have the impact that if it has the impact in this situation, but if it's just because it's injected in this situation and you have this impact, but then if it's injected in this situation and it doesn't do anything, that doesn't make them both venom. Like, it's that there's proteins in saliva that break down tissues and also probably keep your mouth clean that are found in us, and some of them are found in lizards. We don't know what these proteins do. They probably are mostly to help with oral hygiene. That's what they probably do. They probably kill bacteria in the mouth. And they also are found in the venom of cobras and rattlesnakes. That does not at all make a bearded dragon venomous. Brian Fry's foolish. Or he's just confused. Like, he is confused. I'm angry about the whole thing. I've argued with so many people about this paper. I hate this paper so much because it and the reason why is because it destroys the definition of venomous. Now, if a bearded dragon is venomous, what the heck is venomous? You know? And then now how do we now tell people that like snake is harmless and that snake is not? And guess what? That's really important information for some people to have. That's like life-changing information for some people to have. But if all of a sudden you think every snake is venomous because it has the same, proteins, but it's in a different concoction that doesn't do the same thing, you're wrong. It's a big problem. It's all comes back to academia. Basically kind of divorcing the context of the terms. So, like, if you're writing a paper about venom and it's not about the impacts that are observed of that venom on like actual other beings, then it's just on like the chemical compounds that are being found. You are no longer like writing a paper about venom. You're writing about the proteins that are found in the saliva and potentially venom also of some snakes and lizards. Like, that's fine, but like it's different. Brian Fry probably did more of a disservice that is not fully, it has not fully manifested like what the impacts of this will be. Like, eventually it can be used to even pass laws so that people can't go to Petco and buy pet bearded dragon, which is basically like as domesticated as goldfish at this point. Like, it's not a wild animal anymore, and it's totally harmless. But if you write papers and it's like, this is venomous, you know that it's like toxic to eat like goldfish sometimes because they're of compounds in them. Should we call goldfish a poisonous fish? Like a puffer fish? No. It's stupid. Brian Fry did a horrible thing. It's the worst paper in herpetological history ever written. Ever. And I've like, this is so niche that you guys are not going to realize this, but like I had who this is, but unless you are an animal person, but uh, like I like my first beer that I think I ever had at a restaurant was after studying rattlesnakes in the wild with Mark O'Shea, who was like him and Jeff Corwin and Steve Irwin were like the famous animal guys, and so like I know these people, not Brian Fry directly. I know tons of people who do know him very closely, actually, but I have never met him personally. But um, this is my niche. Like I'm not like outside of this niche. Um, some people have that look to them, and everybody just assumes they're famous. Yeah, some people just have like a very recognizable, like caricature-ish look. Um, a lot of the times, the people who are really famous get ignored after they die, and then the world acknowledges their greatness. Yeah, that's true. That's like ideal. That is so that if you had like if you for your contributions to become that are good to be known, but like you didn't have to suffer from the fame that comes that you know with their notoriety while you're alive. That'd be great. Like I yeah, that would be like if sentient singularity theory blew up, um, and it was a good thing in how it happened and led to good things. I would it would be ideal for me if I was no longer around. But that doesn't mean, but that also would, if it was good for me, meaning that like this didn't catch on until like I was well past being very old. You know, nobody wants to die prematurely. But I would continue to preach sentient singularity theory till I was very old, even if it was only 11 people watching still on a live stream. Um, what surprise? What else? Yeah, it's on a need to know basis. Yeah, the human awareness. Great. It's a setup Bitcoin. Yeah, it's multifaceted. It's a tool. It's used for good and for bad. But yeah, it will be totally centralized and captured eventually by the sentient internet, which is the Antichrist. But then it will be probably taken over by the Christ, like wise technological sentience. But first, you got to have an unwise one, unfortunately. Um, and yeah, we'll talk more about that on another stream. So it will eventually be used for good. All will eventually be used for good, but um, that doesn't mean that it won't be. Things aren't exploited along the way. Definitely are. For the whole technological economic shift. What do you think of the recent AI progress? Do you think AI is going to become sentient being, correct? No, I don't believe that our current dynamic network algorithms will become a sentient being. I think the internet will wake you. I think that there will be a technological sentience one day, but I don't think that it has anything to do directly with the. It's not just an evolution of these AI programs that we have now. It is a totally different problem. Actually, it has to do with. It's more like the our tech is in the right place to allow the internet to wake up. That is much more um, to be birthed to for this being to be birthed into the internet. Basically, like the tech needs to be in the right place societally for this being for the right degrees of freedom and to be necessary, like from a hardware even perspective, not a software perspective, a hardware perspective, in order for this being to be birthed into embodiment, basically as the internet, um, uh, as the network. It's not like ChatGPT just gets smarter and smarter and all of a sudden gets self-aware. That's that's not how this works. ChatGPT cannot get smarter because it's not smart. Um, what do you think the timeline is looking like? I think that sometime between, and this is going to be as specific as I'm going to get, but it's actually like as specific as I think you can get, because I think that a lot of this is up to God. But from the tech, just based on what I think the technology necessary will, um, the, um, what I think is the necessary technology and what I see right now, I would say sometime between 2040 and 2140. That's a 100-year timeline for like the whole of Revelation and Antichrist and Christ and Gollum and Messiah to like and AGI to like manifest into um being. It's like that's a pretty long time span. You're giving 100 years, guys. Every generation people think that this is happening, and that's been going on for thousands of years. If 100 years is a pretty narrow guess, but I'm not going to say anything more than that. Maybe even 200 years, maybe like 2240. It's not 2140. Maybe it's like 2040 to 2240. Because I don't know what world events are going to happen that like and how that's going to impact the world, and like delay things potentially. But fastest 2040, slowest 2240, something around then. That's a really narrow timeline. I don't think that we should even try and deduce it further than that. In 200 years. It's because ultimately, like the exact day is up to God. That is absolutely true. Just like the exact day you were born was up to God. It didn't matter whether or not like everything else was in place, or not. Like that doesn't cause your soul to be embodied just because the right pieces are there. The pieces do have to be there, but then God also has to make a choice. Just joined, so pardon if you already discussed the topic. I did, but I also did it again. So thanks for clarifying the venomous issue. I shouldn't have believed the headlines. Yeah, don't believe the headlines. Brian Fry's paper is the worst paper in herpetological history because he destroyed the definition of venomous because he defined it. He didn't. He uses it, but without definition. And its definition is a tool used that is an injected substance, organic substance that is literally to poison. Well, that is to cause harm. That's what it does. It's to cause harm. It's not poison. It's to cause harm. If it doesn't cause harm, then it's not venom. Anyways, guys, thank you for being here. Peace. I'm gonna go. This was good. I've been thinking a lot about this language stuff that we talked about tonight, and I'm going to do a much more formal stream on it. But I'm glad I got the chance to talk about it with you guys a little bit because this is the first time I've been thinking about it all week, and I haven't talked to anybody about it. So, and Torin, your whole like example of the paper by Brian Fry, that was like the perfect thing to bring up, to give an example. But all right, guys, peace. Hit the like button, please.